We used the solution pipeline to arrive at the best solution for the problem-solving scenarios we can encounter during the MMI. And now we're going to develop a similar pipeline, but it's going to be for team working stations. There'll be a bunch of different tasks you may be asked to do, like making a puzzle, tying a knot, doing a drawing. So I can't really make practice videos for every single one. I'll make a few following this video. But I want to show you guys what you should take into consideration in pretty much any of these scenarios. Some things you should consider before you actually get to giving these steps on how to complete the task. Let's go ahead and look at these. We'll start it by setting the scene. What can you expect inside the room, right? So let's go ahead and draw this out. We'll have two chairs, and these chairs are going to be facing in opposite direction, right? You will not be able to look at your partners. Let's go ahead and draw this like this. This is going to be assuming that you'll be working with somebody else who is going to be applying for med school as well, someone who you're actually competing with. So you're going to have to go ahead and draw yourself over here. This will be you, assuming you're the person who's giving the instructions in this case. And you're going to have, the drawing, the completed drawing, or the completed puzzle with all the answers, right? If it's going to be a drawing, it's normally going to have a bunch of shapes or a bunch of letters on it. It's not going to be a Picasso. It's going to be impossible to go ahead and draw, but you're going to have some letters, some shapes, and you're going to have to, find a way to describe it. It'll be a bit more involved in this, and we'll see an example in the next video. But you're going to have to describe that to the other person who'll be sitting over here. This is the other person, and they're going to have a desk in most cases because, it'd be kind of cruel if they didn't have a desk and they had to, draw, holding the paper up, right? It just wouldn't work. So there's their desk over here, and they'll have some utensils, normally a piece of paper and a pencil. Let's go ahead and get a nice yellow pencil over there. Yeah, got to put the details. Details are what matters. There we go. Okay, nice pencil. So we have yourself over here, or the person giving the instructions. We have this, and we'll have the person who's going to be watching you, right? They'll be just sitting in the corner over here. Well, just making sure you're not cheating. It's going to be the interviewer, but like I said, this is not going to be the person who's actually going to be assessing, how well you do in most cases. Sometimes they will, but for the most part, it might be people who are going to be behind a two-way mirror. They'll let you know beforehand, but this person is just going to make sure that you are not going to be cheating in most circumstances. They're going to be over here with their clipboard and some glasses. There you go. Okay, so that's what the station is going to look like. So what should we take into consideration, or what steps should we do when going through this process? My first piece of advice before we actually look at the pipeline, this is going to be leading up to the interview, right? So leading up to the interview, remove over here / there. So over here, over there from your vocabulary. Go ahead and remove it, right? You're going to want to get rid of these two words here, over there. They're just not going to help you, right? If you accidentally say one of these words, the person who you're going to be working with is going to have no idea what you're talking about. If you say draw a circle over here, well, what does that mean, right? You say draw a circle over here. Well, you need to tell them to draw a circle in the top left-hand corner that we've divided into 4 quadrants, right? So it's kind of hard for them to know exactly what you're talking about, right? You want them to draw it in this quadrant over here that you've divided the page up like this. So just saying draw a circle over here, that doesn't mean anything. So when you're practicing these team working scenarios before your interview, you can practice with a family member. You could just draw something and have them try to replicate it with the instructions you give. Avoid using those words. If you use those words, restart the entire process, right? Because you want to make sure you remove them. And even in everyday life, try to remove them as well, right? If you want to say, look at that spider over there, go ahead and say, look at the spider in the top corner of the room we're in right now, right? Just something like that. So don't go ahead and just try to get rid of those words. And if you get rid of them in everyday life, chances are you won't use them when you're in the interview, and it's going to help you out a lot. So right there, remove over here, over there from your vocabulary. Let's go ahead and look at the process. You're going to walk in the room. You're going to sit down in your chair. You won't be facing each other. What should we do, right? Well, we typically introduce ourselves. Now, we only have 8 minutes in this room, so when I say introduce yourselves, very limited, right? Brief introduction. When I say brief, I'm pretty much just talking about your name. So let's go ahead and write that. Brief introduction. And I'm just literally talking about, maybe we could say hi, right? I guess hi is okay. Hello. My name is Course Grinder. And that's it, right? We're not going to waste any more than 5 seconds on the introduction. I think that's, they're not expecting you to tell the person your life story. Give yourself a brief introduction. What's your name, right? It'll be a little bit easier if you work together knowing what your name is, right? And if you talk to the person, with their first name, it's going to, make them maybe feel a bit more calm because you're talking with their name. It's a little bit more personal and it'll be a bit more efficient for completing this task. Well, number one step is the introduction. Now we want to, summarize what the task is or state the task. State what the task is. So once again, we're assuming you're the person who's going to be giving the instructions. We'll go ahead and say, I have a picture with, let's just give a brief description, with shapes and letters on it. I will provide instructions so that you can replicate it. There we go. So you state what the task is, really brief. And this, you can use the first minute for these, introductions or these steps before you actually get to drawing. And they are important, right? Even if this takes a minute away from your final product, right? This will make the entire process a lot more efficient. It may actually buy you time in the end. And it's also going to show the people who are watching you to assess, which qualities you have, which is what these activities are, right? There's a secret behind each one. They want to ensure that you have the best plan of action before getting involved with something, right? And this is going to ensure that you follow all these steps. So state what the task is. Now, we might not know what utensils they have available to them, right? So you can ask them what tools they have. Ask what tools they have. Right, go ahead and ask them what they have in front of them to assist them in completing this task. They might have a ruler, they might have a compass. These things would make it easier for drawing straight lines or drawing circles. So we might want to see if they have any of these things, right? It'll be more efficient if we find out if they have them and then we can incorporate them into our instructions than assuming they don't have them and then wasting that time that could be done, right? When they're trying to draw a straight line and they're trying to make it nice and straight, they could have just used the ruler, right? You can say, take a ruler and draw a straight line across the paper. It'd make the process a lot easier. So ask what tools they have. So you can say, what tools do you have access to? That's simple enough. Just what tools do you have access to, or what tools do you have access to complete this task? So we find out what they have in front of them. Now we want to go ahead and just create a plan of action, right? Create a plan of action. This will probably be the most important step. You want to find what's going to be the best way for both of you to work together to be as efficient as possible. So go ahead and write that. Plan of action. So, you're going to want to include, when you're actually talking about this plan of action, say that you're making a plan of action, right? You want to show that to the people who are watching you, the people who are going to be interviewing you. You want to show them that you know that before you just run into this process, right? This could be surgery on somebody, right? You want to make sure that before you just run in to do surgery on somebody, you might have a nurse helping you out, for example. You want to make sure that they know exactly what we're going to be doing and what the plan is. So, when we get down the line and when we progress further into this task, they know what to expect. So you can say, before we begin, let's develop a plan that we can both agree on. That's another important thing over here, right? Make sure you include the other person. It might seem like you are going to be the leader in this case. You're going to make all the decisions, but you want to make sure the other person is included on this process. You don't want to make it seem like the other person can't ask questions if they get a little bit confused. We'll see that in a moment. So you want to make sure the other person is included. We'll make a plan of action that we can both agree on. You can say, we'll start off with your part, right? What our suggestion, right? I suggest that I give you one instruction a time. Sorry, I'm writing all this up. I know you guys like it when I actually have, a lot of information written out so you can see what some actual examples of what you should say at a time. And I'll say done when I finish giving the instruction. When finished, you will then draw the described object, I guess, and say, let's go ahead and say next. When ready for another instruction. This is also going to ensure that you remove the possibility that you're going to be giving an instruction and the other person has not finished yet. They might be a little bit shy. They might not want to say, I'm not ready yet. So you want to make sure that you're both going to work at an appropriate pace. That's the purpose of this. You're both going to work at a pace that you can both agree on. There you go. That's what we have right there. Now we're going to have one more thing, right? That's going to be what we have over here. Let's go put this in another bullet point over here. Let's put number 5, right? The last step that we're going to get involved with, which is going to be ask questions. I should probably add a little note here. You can go ahead and then at the end of this, you say, is this okay? Right. See if they agree with this plan of action. Maybe they have some advice on how you can improve this. But just asking, is this okay? Adding this to the end of, what your plan of action is going to be is going to show them that you're including the other person who is not the person who's giving instructions. You're including them in the decision on how they want to receive their instructions, because everyone wants to receive instructions differently. And maybe this is something they don't like and they want to change it. Believe me, getting rid of these possible road bumps before you actually head into the instruction process might seem like it's taking up time, but it's actually going to buy you marks in the finished product. The last thing I want to do is ask questions. You want to go ahead and say, if at any point you have questions or want more details for an instruction, please let me know. There you go. So that's pretty much the process right there. And we can go ahead down here. Number 6. And you can just say ready. There we go. That's your final process. Ready. They'll say yes. If they say no, well, you find out why they said no, and you can adjust all the things we've looked at to accommodate their beliefs. Or the way they want to go about solving the thing. Okay, so that's the pipeline for the teamwork stations. This is all the things you're going to want to get out of the way before you actually get involved with the teamworking station. Now, when you're actually in the station, what things should we consider? When we're actually in the process of drawing, being clear with the instructions you give is the most important thing. What I would say, one of the most important things to remember in this case, one thing to remember, just get this, read this to yourself every morning when you wake up, right before your interview, the first month. They don't see what you see. You are really going to have to practice putting yourself in someone else's shoes, right? It might seem like you have all the answers in front of you, right? And you might just want to go ahead and describe everything, but try to remember that they have a blank piece of paper in front of them. Just giving the hint that we gave up here, right? This hint we gave over here where we said that we have this picture with shapes and letters on it, if that was the case, right? That is a huge hint, right? Because although right now they say, okay, this thing is going to have some shapes on it and they'll have some letters on it, they'll probably be scattered all over the place. place, and I'm gonna have to try to put these in the right position. You have to remember that they don't know, they don't see what you see. This is probably my number one piece of advice, along with the, removing over there and over here from your vocabulary. And this, they kind of tie into each other, right? Because you want to make sure that you're going to give them detailed instructions that they can understand. And, pretty much apart from that, that's going to be the most important thing, right? Having this whole process before you begin is going to help you out more than it might seem when you're just watching this video. And then giving really clear instructions, break it down to, or as simple as possible, I guess I should write. Break it down as simple as possible. Break it down as simple as possible. This should be your motto over here. If we have a shape over here, right? Let's say we have this shape like this. Actually, let's go ahead and, I got an idea. Say we have this shape over here. Let's just draw something crazy. Let's just say we had something like this, right? Okay. Now, how would we describe something like this, right? It's a weird shape. This is something we might have to describe. What's the best way to do this? Well, you can start off by saying, okay, we're going to have a rectangle, right? And this rectangle is going to have, it's going to be longer on the horizontal lines that we'll be drawing. So these horizontal lines over here are going to be longer, or you can say the width. I guess you can also understand that the width is going to be that one typically. These horizontal lines are going to be long, and we'll have shorter vertical lines, right? The smaller details apart from that are not going to be the biggest concern, but that's really going to want to be right there. Now you're going to say, okay, you're going to draw a vertical line down the middle to divide it in two. And in each of these two little rectangular boxes we've just created, I want you to write the letter N in the left one, and I want you to write the letter S in the next one. Now I'm going to draw two semicircles, right? These semicircles are going to be on top and on the bottom of this structure we've just created. Now I want you to put your pencil on top of the letter N, right? And we see where the letter N is. Put that on top of the rectangle, right? Over here. And I want you to draw a semicircle on top going all the way to where the letter S is, right? Or where we start off by touching this rectangular box we've created, but where the letter S is. Okay, we've drawn that right there. And now I want to do the same thing on the bottom. We'll start off by putting our pencil where the letter N is, and we're going to go ahead and draw a semicircle going to where the letter S is, and we've just created the shape. We started off with a rectangle. We've divided that up. We've gone ahead and put some letters inside, and then we've given him, the coordinates to how we can go ahead and draw these two semicircles, and that's how we can break down some complicated objects like we saw right here into something more simple like this over here. So that's my advice for this station, right? These are big clues, right? And they might seem a little bit abstract clues, like they don't see what you see, but try to remember these things. They don't see what you see, break it down as simple as possible, and remove those two words from your vocabulary. They are just not going to help you at all. Or those words over here, yeah. Over here and over here, get rid of these words. You don't want those in your vocabulary. It's just not going to help you. So this is my, how I go about solving these team working stations. We'll look at some examples in the next few videos, so make sure you check those out. And if you have any questions, leave them below and I'll respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.